Hello, my name is Michael Lambert, and today I want to talk a little bit about what went on last week, the Rwanda decision and the return of Cameron, and one or two other bits and pieces. Now, I was thinking the other day about how extraordinarily unlucky we've been as a nation over the last 10 years or so, ever since really the referendum, which was really only held because David Cameron, our new Foreign Secretary, was worried about whether or not he was going to be able to keep his party in order. It was always the right wing, as it is even today. It's the right wing, the Tory party, that are causing all the problems and have caused all the problems. He was also worried about UKIP at the time, and so the referendum was held on a simple majority, and we all know where that led us. And then, of course, he sort of swanned off as soon as he lost the referendum. And we had May, and she was bullied by the right and couldn't get anywhere. And then she was replaced by Johnson, who did more damage to this country than almost anybody else ever in history. I would have thought a man who just saw it all as a bit of a laugh being Prime Minister, wasn't really interested in governing, was just interested in being centre of attention, as we all know. Then, as we know, we had a Truss for 7 weeks. And now we've got this clown Sunak. The man is an absolute clown. He is completely and utterly useless. He's out of touch. He's weak. He's pathetic. And seeing him jumping around, telling us all the time about how well everything is doing, how well the government is doing. My gosh, listen to him. Just things could not be better. I mean, he's just doing so well. And I thought when this, when Braverman went and when this decision went against the government, the Supreme Court, I thought, well, this is an opportunity. It's an opportunity for Sunak to say, well, okay, we've done what we can. It's obviously not going to go ahead with Rwanda. We're going to find other ways of dealing with the asylum seekers problem, but we've got much more important issues to deal with. But no, he's doubled down. He absolutely doubled down, and the right wing Tories are pushing him like crazy. They're on the news every minute telling us how we've really got to get these boats stopped, and we've got to get these flights off to Rwanda. And I was thinking, when you look at the state of the country at the moment, I mean, leave alone global warming, which is not being taken seriously enough. When you look at the state of the economy, I mean, just look at it. Yeah, there's no inward investment. Firms are closing right, left, and centre. There's a shortage of workers. Look at the NHS. Look at schools. Look at the prisons. Look at the courts. Everywhere you look, there's chaos. Everywhere there's chaos, and there's this terrific cost of living crisis which is affecting absolutely everybody. And there are many people we know are just not going to be able to afford to buy food next year. And yet, despite all this, and despite the fact that also, in addition to all these current problems we've got, which are largely down to government mismanagement, all our infrastructure has been sold off. You look at gas, water, electricity, railways, all our offshore wind farms, which they're always cracking on about. All this stuff is all foreign owned now. The car industry, steel industry, everything's foreign owned. We are really in trouble. And what does the government decide? Sunak decide to do? Double down on the boats. Got to stop the boats. Double down on Rwanda. We've got to get these planes going off to Rwanda. Take it from me, nobody is going to be sent to Rwanda, ever. This will never ever get through before the next election, which the Tories are almost certain to lose. And I was thinking how he's going to do this, what he's got in his little mind as Sunak, his absolute preoccupation with this Rwanda flights. What he said is that the Supreme Court said that Rwanda is not a safe country, and therefore they couldn't back it. He says no. He's going to do is get a new treaty with Rwanda, and then he's going to put through an act of parliament which will actually make Rwanda a safe country. Just do it in Parliament. And I was thinking about the conversation he might have with Paul Kagame, the dictator or president of Rwanda. And I imagine it would go a bit like this. He'd say, "Hello, Paul. This is Rishi here. I'm ringing about our agreement, our treaty. We got a bit of problem because some of our lefty lawyers, they don't really understand, and they've said that Rwanda's not safe. So I've got to sort it out a bit. I wonder if we could get a new treaty. I'll fax something over to you, but maybe you could add a bit to it. But don't mention anything about the fact that people tend to disappear if they oppose you, and don't mention anything about those 11 refugees who were shot dead for complaining about the food a few years ago. And don't mention about how when people leave Rwanda, you go after them and chase them and kill them and things like that. Don't mention anything like that. Just say you're a lovely, lovely country and everything's very nice out there, and that you will welcome all these asylum seekers we're going to send you, and that they'll have a lovely life there. And just another couple of things whilst I'm talking to you, Paul. When we negotiate our deal, we were in a bit of a hurry, to be honest, and we didn't really look at the detail. But I noticed that we've agreed to take back some of your vulnerable. I think it says in the contract and the treaty it says vulnerable. Some of your vulnerable refugees. We're going to take some of them back. I was wondering if you could just tell me, can you assure me that some of those vulnerable, they won't include any criminals, any murderers or child rapists, anything like that? You can't guarantee that. Oh, okay, no, that's fine. And can you guarantee that it won't include any people who are disabled, people who need a lot of expensive medical attention when they get to the UK? You can't guarantee that either. Okay. No, that's all right. Just a couple of other points. We've given you 140 million. That's about, I think you can take 200 of our asylum seekers. That's £700,000 each. Do you need any more money? Because here in the UK, we're awash with money. We just throw money away like confetti. If you'd like some more, just let me know. Okay, you don't need it at the moment. Okay, and the very last thing, Paul, once we start sending all these refugees to you, if you have to shoot any of them, could you please, on the death certificate, put they died of natural causes, because that'll save us. I mean, we haven't got to worry about the main press, because we've got them under control on the BBC. They won't report it, but some of the other press might report it if you put down that they've been shot. Okay? That's how mad it is. That is how insane it is. All this is about sending up to 200 people to Rwanda to swap them for Rwanda's vulnerable refugees they want to get rid of. And this is the absolute obsession of the government. This is more important than anything else. Forget climate change, forget the collapsing economy, forget everything. Because if we can manage to send a plane load, it won't even be a plane load, 200, that's one plane a year, half full, going to Rwanda. That's what this is all about. That is a deterrent to stop 50,000 people crossing the channel in little boats. Can you imagine if you're one of 50,000, you've got a 250 to 1 chance of being sent to Rwanda? That is no deterrent. It's just posturing. It's just stupidity. It's insanity. It's a waste of time, a waste of money. It's absolute, utter nonsense. But that's what the right wing want. Lee Anderson wants it, and Jonathan Gullis wants it, and all these crazies on the right, they all want it. And little Rishi there, pathetic little Rishi, he's got to do whatever they want. It's just beyond belief that he's so pathetic. But anyhow, he brought back Call Me Dave, didn't he? David Cameron. Now, Call Me Dave, he was Prime Minister, wasn't he? And I think apparently, by all accounts, he's a bit bored these days and hasn't got anything to do. And so I think he was glad of something to do, really get out of the house. So he's the new Foreign Secretary. When I heard that he was being made Foreign Secretary, I thought, well, maybe again. I thought in the way that the Supreme Court decision gave Sunak an opportunity to move a bit towards the centre, I thought, Call Me Dave coming back. He's a very, very pro-Europe. That's what the referendum was all about. And I thought maybe that'll enable us to move a little bit more to maybe a slight turn in Conservative Party attitudes, and that we might start moving a little bit back to the centre and maybe even start talking to the EU. But no, we're pressing on, and Call Me Dave, I think, he's right behind. He's now right winger. He's now, I think, right behind the government's policies. Now, when Cameron was first elected, I thought he seemed quite he looked the part, he seemed quite distinguished. He's very laid back and very confident and so on, and I thought he was going to be all right. Of course, then we had austerity, and then he had the referendum, which was a terrible, terrible gamble, a stupid misjudgment, and then he sort of swanned off whistling, didn't he? And since then, we've learned a little bit about what sort of character he is, and we've learned about the green seal thing. I've got a few things here. Green seal, it said he earned £7 million for it. Apparently he was using his connections. He was phoning Sunak and various other people trying to get a government contract for green seal before it finally went bust, and it's now being investigated by the Serious Fraud Office. He has been lobbying for a big Chinese company, trying to get a £1 billion fund on behalf of the Chinese government, or a big company connected with the government. He's also was giving speeches in Dubai, apparently, about some sort of Chinese port being built in Sri Lanka, and he was right behind that and trying to promote it. His friend Bamford, he made him a lord, and Bamford is now being investigated by the HMRC for tax evasion, apparently. And he was also a consultant to a firm called Illumina. And in 2019, he, of course, lobbied Matt Hancock to get a contract for Illumina. In due course, Illumina got a contract for £123 million. Later on in 2021, he started texting Zahawi for another contract. He got another contract on behalf of this Illumina. So he's a snout in the trough, just like the rest of them. Just think about money. None of these people has any integrity. How can it possibly be that our government can be run by such greedy, self-serving, irresponsible people, really? Do they have no social conscience? Of course, Cameron, like Sunak, he's lived a privileged life, plenty of money, and never had to worry about much. And of course, Braverman's gone, the wicked witch, although she's not going quietly. Personally, I think she's finished. I think, as I said last week, I believe that her remark about living homeless is being a lifestyle choice, I think that was her Gerald Ratner moment. I think that's something that will haunt her, and I think whatever she tries to do in the future, that's going to be brought up. And a lot of commentators have said the same during the last few days. This woman is completely mad. She's now firing off from the sidelines with various newspaper articles. It's been revealed also in her letter. She said that she did in fact have a deal with, as we all suspect, she had a deal with Sunak to keep him or to get him into power and to keep him there. And now she's a woman scorned, and I no doubt she's going to continue to make a lot of trouble. And she, like Bridget Patel before her, I mean, as I've mentioned so many times before, had this sort of psychopathic hatred of people who wanted to come to this country in the way that her parents did. I mean, she absolutely hated and despised anybody trying to seek asylum in this country, and it seemed quite extraordinary. And of course, Sunak is just, he's so pathetic. He's just sort of run along behind them and doing what he thought wouldn't upset anybody. And Braverman had, as a immigration minister, Robert Jenrick. I just want to say a few words about him because he is really, he's really almost as nasty as they are. This is a man. He's a bully. He's a coward. But he's so smarmy, isn't he? So smarmy. Listening to him, it's like being smothered in treacle. And I always imagine him, I see him on the television, he's always very smart, I always imagine him in one of those Gestapo uniforms, He's just something about him that's just nasty. And it was he who had those Mickey Mouse cartoons painted out, because he didn't want children coming here seeking asylum to get any pleasure whatsoever, any joy whatsoever. He wanted to make their lives as miserable as possible. And also, I found out last week that apparently at Napier Barracks, where the charity Care for Calais, they've been helping people. They've been giving them clothes, and they've been giving them haircuts and giving them advice and so on. He's banned them. He stopped that. He doesn't want anyone to help any immigrants, because asylum seekers are the root of all our problems. You know, if we could get rid of asylum seekers, then everything would just be perfect and wonderful. Now, this you might find quite amusing. It's because, as I say, he is a bully and a coward, as bullies very often are cowards. Honest Bob. And I mentioned him in a video a few weeks ago, and amongst the comments, I have no idea whether it's true or not, but I'll read you one of the comments to that video about Jenrick. It was from someone who said this: "I live in Pimlico, and Jenrick is my neighbour. Often see him with his wife walking their 2 dogs. His wife is a very dominant, unpleasant woman, and he is like her little puppy." And I thought, that figures, doesn't it? He's probably getting bullied at home. He's probably had a hard time. His wife's got all the money, and he probably just takes it out on everybody else. But he's our immigration minister. And so that's the mess. That's the mess we're in now, with the focus and the attention of the government, politicians, the press. Everybody's focus is on stopping the boats and getting the planes off to Rwanda. Rwanda, a country which is run by Paul Kagame, who's been the dictator there for, Prime Minister or whatever he is, for years and years and years and years. It's a country with a very poor human rights reputation. And I came across something from Human Rights Watch the other day, and it said about Rwanda: "Those who dare to criticise government policy or President Paul Kagame do so at great risk, and even those who've fled abroad to escape persecution aren't safe." A new Human Rights Watch report outlines how the government of Rwanda keeps tabs on dissidents, both real and perceived, and how threats and acts of intimidation also happen across borders. The repression of Rwandans living abroad ranges from killings, kidnapping, beatings and enforced disappearances to manipulated extradition requests, arbitrary detention and attempted or successful renditions. But it doesn't really matter, because all that really matters is that we can send half a plane load of asylum seekers to Rwanda once a year. Now, just let me say a little bit about asylum seekers, about these people crossing the channel in little boats. Now, nobody in their right minds is going to cross the channel in a little boat, no matter how desperate they are, unless there's an alternative. And there is now no alternative. Unless you come from Hong Kong, you come from Ukraine or Afghanistan, there's no way of applying for legally, to come here legally. There's no way. It's all shut. We've managed to stop it. We got rid of all those dreadful Europeans. They don't come here anymore, thank goodness. And now we don't want any other foreigners, unless we invite them, to come and do a bit of menial work we invite them in from Bangladesh and from Nigeria, I think, the favourite countries. We don't want foreigners coming here, and so we just want to stop them. And so they have no alternative. Now, there are 2 myths that I want to mention here that the government keep putting out. The first is, and you hear this all sorts of people, you hear a lot of vox pop saying that they're economic migrants. And the proof of that is the fact that they're all young men. Now imagine this: supposing you're a family in Iran or Eritrea or somewhere where the father's been locked up in prison, maybe been killed, and you've got a family. There's a mother, there's a grandmother, and 2 or 3 young children, and then there's a boy of 18 or 21 or something. Which one of those are you going to send? Obviously, the young men, because they're going to be coming because they're the ones who are fit and strong enough to survive this trip and to take the risk to come here. They're not economic migrants. Very, very few of them are. And if they were all economic migrants, we'd send them all home. The other myth which they put about a lot is that they keep saying, now you'll hear one minister after another get up and say, oh, we've done a deal with Albania to send back any of asylum seekers coming here from Albania. We've sent back 80%, 90% this year. This is nonsense. If you're Albanian, and indeed tens of thousands were coming across last year, apparently, Albanian young men. Now, they were coming here for who knows what reason. It was said that a lot of them were given a free passage, providing as soon as they got here, they went and worked for a criminal gang. A lot of those were almost certainly coming here for criminal purposes. But if you want to come to the UK, you're an Albanian. This is from the government's website. As a citizen of Albania intending to travel to the United Kingdom, you must have a standard visitor visa. In order to get this one, you must have the following. You must have show that you have an intention to leave the UK. You must demonstrate your plans to leave before your visa expires. You must show that you've got enough money to support yourself whilst you're in the UK. And you must show that you can afford your return journey. So anybody in Albania at any time can have gone along to the British Embassy and got a visa. So obviously all these thousands and thousands of young men coming across, obviously they weren't coming to seek a political asylum. But we're told all the time, we put a stop to it. They could have put a stop to it at any time. Every single young man that arrived from Albania should be put straight on the next plane back home. But no, this is the big triumph. You hear it all the time. We've got this fantastic deal with Albania to send back all these asylum seekers. Look how well it's working. And the buffoon, Sunak, tells us all the time about how the boat crossing Sudan is all working because crossing Sudan. Like he's telling us about inflation. Inflation's down, yeah, because he's done so well. It's all him personally, he's done it. He has no control over inflation. It's the Bank of England. And food inflation is still at 10.1%. And next year, apparently in January, we're going to start imposing import controls on food coming in from the EU. Prices are going to absolutely rocket, and there'll be huge, huge shortages. We're not producing enough food ourselves because we can't get anybody to harvest the food. I read something last week about apparently there's been a good harvest for apples this year. Apparently the trees are laden with apples and they're all falling off onto the ground and rotting. Can't get anybody to pick them. Nobody wants to pick them. People in this country, they don't want to pick apples. It's always cold, it's wet, and you get your feet muddy. No, they don't want to do that. They want to be Instagram influencers. They want to work from home, work from home on a computer where you can sit in bed all day. People don't want to work in apples. So what happens? I went to Sainsbury's only 2 days ago. Bought 2 packets of apples, one from Chile, one from South Africa. Now, I did want to just mention one or two other things that caught my eye this week. The Lancet, which is the magazine of the medical profession in this country, very, very well-esteemed, internationally esteemed magazine, had on its front cover the following. The level of criminal incompetence exposed by recent witnesses to the UK COVID-19 inquiry has proven that many, if not most, of over 230,000 deaths were preventable. And the former Health Secretary, Steve Barclay, he's no longer Health Secretary. He's moved to DEFRA, so he's going to be looking after the environment and water and so on, the water companies and so on. And it just happens that his wife is a big shot in Anglian Water. Anglian Water, which was fined £2.65 million for dumping sewage this summer. So no conflict of interest there, of course. And I reckon that Anglian Water must be very happy that any problems in the future, they'll just ask Barclay's wife to have a word with her husband. Chris Bryant, who's a very respectable Labour MP, said that, I don't know what he's quoting, but he said this year and next year we'll see in this country the biggest fall in living standards since records began. Now, we all know about, because of the cost of living crisis, how how many people are struggling, how many people are relying on food banks, and there's a Trussell Trust, and they've given out this year alone, they've given out 1.5 million emergency food parcels to people who couldn't afford to feed themselves. Life expectancy is down. Children are shorter now than they used to be because they're not getting enough nourishment. We've got 7 million people waiting on the waiting list for NHS. I mean, things are absolutely disastrous. And yet, our little clown, our little Norman Wisdom, our Prime Minister, last week, all done up in his white tie and tails at the Guildhall, I think he was giving a speech. That's what he says. Every day, Britain is out there. I don't know what that means. Every day, Britain is out there helping the poorest, the most vulnerable, saving and transforming lives. I don't know if you saw last week how they were transforming the lives of homeless people sleeping rough in Camden. In Camden, a whole posse of policemen, they there's no burglaries to clear up, no crime to deal with. A whole gang of policemen were going along a line of these miserable people living in these tents, pulling them out of their tents, then ripping away their tents and putting them into an accompanying rubbish lorry so they could be crushed and taken away. So these pathetic people are now going to have to sleep in the open. Look after the poorest, you see. Again, it's a lifestyle choice, and it's what Braven wanted, to hit these people, hit the vulnerable. And one last thing which caught my eye, which I thought was quite interesting, is this: that Jeremy Hunt next week is going to present his autumn statement. And it's been widely predicted or said that he's going to particularly target benefit claimants. You see, you've got to go for poor people. They're going to go after all these people who may be claiming a little bit too much. Maybe claiming £10 a week when they should need to get £9 a week. He's going after them. They're really going to concentrate all their efforts on that. Never mind about all the rich people making so much money and all the government money being billions and billions and just thrown away. Never mind about Michelle Mone swanning around the Caribbean on her boat that we all paid for. No, we're going after the poor people, the poor, miserable people. Jeremy Hunt, a few years ago, he bought 7 flats in Southampton. He bought 7 flats, and he forgot to notify. I think he bought 7 because that somehow or other saved duty, or some saved some tax somehow or other. But anyway, he forgot to mention it in his register of interest in Parliament, and got told off for it. But he said, oh no, I'm quite sure he's right. It was an honest Mistake. It was like Nadim Zahawi when he forgot to pay 3.5 million in tax. That was again, another honest mistake. I mean, politicians, especially rich politicians, can make honest mistakes. I mean, they make honest mistakes all the time. It's poor people can't make any honest mistakes. If your bus is not running today, you're late to get to the job centre or whatever it is they go to. That's not an honest mistake. That you get penalised for that. But let me leave you with this about Jeremy Hunt, because this I found almost beyond belief. Ministers and members of Parliament put in for their expenses, and they detail their expenses, and you can search them and find them. Jeremy Hunt claimed, and remember, to put in a claim, you've got to write it out, and you've got to calculate and stick it in and put it on a form and all the rest of it. He claimed last year, on more than one occasion, but apparently on one occasion, 27 pence for a half-mile journey in his car. Can you imagine that? A guy who owns 7 flats and God knows what other property behind as well. A guy's on 150,000 salary. Has to claim for 27 pence journey of half a mile. Yeah, this whole government is so rotten. Our politics are so rotten. It's really, really terrible. It can't go on like this. And yet it will go on like this because we're a population who just accept anything, and whatever we say, we can't do about it, and let's hope everything will turn out right. Everything isn't going to turn out right. Things are just going to get worse and worse and worse. As I've said many times before, our economy is in decline, and it's very, very difficult, if not impossible, to turn it around. And when the economy is in decline, so are taxes, and the taxes go up, or government spending comes down, and either way we're in trouble. It's just amazing. But anyway, let's focus on stopping these boats coming, and then we can get these planes off to Rwanda, and that will solve everything. That will solve absolutely everything. Anyway, that's what I think about it. And if you've watched this far, thank you very much indeed. If you haven't already subscribed, I really would appreciate it if you would do so, or if you know of anybody you think might be interested. And so thanks again, and until next week, bye for now.